Oh, hello, hello. Today I want to ask you, is your inner critic running the show? And how do you know if it is or not? I'm Karen of Karen Shier Coaching, and I want to welcome you to part one of a three-part video series titled 6 Ways to Recognize Your Inner Critic is Running the Show. And this is based on an article that I wrote for Aspire magazine back in the February-March 2023 issue. So you can always check it out there. But what we're going to do is 3 short videos. And the first one I'm going to talk about 6 symptoms that I find in my practice are pretty common things that come up, and also 6 that I certainly have experienced in the past and wanted to dive a little deeper on those. And then in video number 2, we're going to talk about 6 questions to help you figure out or recognize when your inner critic seems to be more in control of you than your inner wisdom. And it's just designed to bring awareness to you so that if those little thoughts come up, you know how to deal with them, and you'll realize that it's from your inner critic and not your higher self. So they're also really great for journal prompts to really kind of go deeper. So I'm going to share those with you in video 2. And then in video 3, we're going to talk about a process or 2 on how to soothe your inner critic, and give you some really good, easy ways to do that and to start working with shifting some of those thought patterns. So I hope that you'll stay on for all 3 videos, and let's get started today. Again, I want to start with 6 ways to recognize your inner critic is running the show. You know, sometimes our inner critic, or what we call our ego, it's running the show and we don't even know it. It can run our lives for so long that we don't know anything different. And soon the internal negative chatter feels just kind of normal to us. We hear it so often, we hear it all day long, that we think it's normal. And we think that's how we're wired to think about things. And we need to kind of learn how to shift those things. Because this chatter, it drains our energy. It causes us to feel as though we're not enough. It can also lead to judgment of ourselves and others. That inner critic voice comes from a fearful place called lack, and it never feels good. I'm sure you've heard of the scale. There's lack on one side of the scale and abundance on the other. And of course, we want to aspire to live in the more abundant way, more abundance and joy and bliss and happiness in our life. And one of the ways we do that is to soothe our inner critic. So our inner critic, it creates disempowering and untrue whisperings of self-talk that we hear in our minds. It comes from conditioned responses based on life experiences. It's based on self-judgments, fears, our evolution's fight or flight responses, which were hard-coded in our reptilian brain. Its altruistic design is to whisper ideas or messages that it thinks will keep us safe and comfortably stuck where we are. It kind of wants the familiar for us. So we kind of need to break free of that. But if we can instead sit down and have a conversation with our inner wisdom, our heart, our intuition, we can uncover these false beliefs, these stories, these patterns from a place of awareness. We can choose to take inspired actions on new thought patterns and beliefs, and just make different choices. The question that comes up often when working with our inner critic is, how do we discern the voice of our inner critic from that of our higher self? How do I know where those thoughts are coming from? And one big clue is, if the thoughts leave you feeling good and joyful, you know they're coming from your heart, from your inner wisdom, from your higher self. If those thoughts leave you feeling not so good, feeling bad, then you know they're coming from your inner critic. But let's begin by examining some of the symptoms I talked about. We're going to examine 6 of them. And these are symptoms of our inner critic's whisperings. So the first one I want to touch on is feelings of not enoughness. I'm sure we've all felt that at one time or another. I'm not enough, or I'm not worthy. Who am I to say that? Who am I to do that? We might feel misaligned or disconnected or unbalanced. We may feel we're not worthy. We may not want to accept help. We may not want to ask help. We may sense a lack of trust in ourselves or others. We believe that the good things always come to others, but they never come to us. And true success is just a pipe dream. If you had feelings of not enoughness or I'm not worthy, that's a classic simple symptom of the inner critic whispering to you. And those are untruths. And those are things that we can shift and rescript to a more positive and more truthful truth about you. The second symptom I want to talk about is called judgment, self-doubt, and worry. You know, you may hear whisperings of, I'm so stupid, or I can't do this. The thoughts and beliefs we're focusing on induce anxiety. They take away joy in the moment. They can leave us feeling drained, negative, stuck, overwhelmed, exhausted, or those feelings of powerlessness to change our situation. When you're stuck in those feelings, I can tell you I felt stuck in overwhelm for a long time before I learned how to deal with all these things. Or I found myself saying, oh, I'm so exhausted, or I'm so tired. These are all symptoms of your inner critic speaking. And so if you feel yourself in that light, then just know it's coming from your inner critic, and we can shift those things. The third symptom that comes up often is procrastination. This leads us to engage in behaviors that keep us from putting ourselves out there. We might be just playing small, or filling up our day with tasks to avoid getting into the truly important things that are going to move us forward. Or if we have a business, it might keep us from moving our business forward, or just moving toward our dreams, taking that next step toward our dreams. And we'll procrastinate. We might disengage because we're too busy, we're too tired, we're too overwhelmed, or it's too hard. Those are all symptoms of procrastination. So just know that if you're engaging those behaviors, it could be your inner critic is wanting you to procrastinate and not move forward. So you can change that. Symptom number four is what if thinking. What if they don't accept me? What if I fail, or what if I get rejected? What if it doesn't work? What if I lose my job or leave my job, or the money stops coming in? Not reaching out to avoid hurt or rejection, or staying in a familiar but less than ideal situation because it seems easier than a dream or desire is all a product of what if thinking. And what I like to do is call it what if down thinking, because usually we're socialized to focus our what if thinking on the negative. But what if we shifted that and said, what if, talking about what if up thinking, what if it does work out well? What if it does work out better than I expect? What if I make even more money at my next job? It's those kinds of shifts that you can make. But the what if down thinking is really a symptom of your inner critic trying to keep you stuck and safely in your current spot, something that's familiar to you. Symptom number 5 is feelings of fear or guilt. We often focus on our fears of the unknown and worst case scenarios instead of expecting the best to happen in any given situation. It might be difficult releasing guilt from past events or forgiving ourselves or others. We may fear speaking up. We might expect that failures in our past dictate our future, or we might get caught up in a fear of what the future may bring. When you find yourself either living in the past, worried about, it happened before, so it's going to happen again, or it happened before, and, so I don't expect a good thing to happen in the future. We're really living in fear or guilt. And those are things that we can work through and we can shift. These are coming from our inner critic. And then the last one I want to talk today, number 6, is called defensiveness. We feel ourselves getting defensive when someone offers a suggestion or advice. We close down. We don't want to hear other ideas or opinions. We might get anger easily, or we might blame others for things not going our way. I know when I was in my previous job situation, I was quick to get angry, or if someone wanted to offer a suggestion, I could feel myself getting really defensive very quickly, which isn't normally how I roll. But just know that is one symptom that your inner critic is running the show. And it just bears you having an awareness and taking some steps to shift that and to realize, where's this coming from? And then you can make a change. So we just covered 6 of the symptoms of the inner critic. And if you're feeling any of those, just understand that it's coming from your inner critic. It's a good way to have awareness. That's why I want to bring these up. And then once you have an awareness, you can do something about it. You can shift those things. You can learn how to deal with those things. So thank you for watching the first video of our 3-part series. In our next video, video 2, we're going to talk about 6 journal prompts or 6 questions that you can ask to recognize when your inner critic is taking stage, and you can do a deeper dive. So thank you. I will put information in the show notes for you and look for video number 2 shortly. Thanks so much. Bye for now.